Live from New York, this is WIUR Radio.
It's going through this right now. I'm trying to figure out how to. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. It doesn't really get much better in this town, does it? Every single week, it's something miserable happening in the sports world. And of course, now the Toronto Blue Jays stand on top of the American League and the Dodgers stand on top of the NL. Welcome back to another episode of GTSS. I'm your host, Jason Adams. And while we're still working on intros, the sports world always still goes on, and it's running rampant with the baseball playoffs almost coming to an end with the World Series starting, I believe, is it tomorrow? Could be wrong. I already have to search things up because I'm not prepared. Awesome start. The World Series starts Friday, October 24th at 8 o'clock, which is, wow. So 3 days. 3 days until the World Series starts, and it's two teams, both fandoms hate in this town. The Blue Jays, who I am rooting for, even though Chris Bassett and Max Scherzer suck, and the Dodgers, who everybody in this league hates because they're the Dodgers. But I really want to talk about this because there says a lot about the two leagues and how they rival each other and how the teams face. Everybody's talking about how, the Dodgers ruin baseball. And I partially agree that it's bad that they can pay for Ohtani and get him on deferred contract. Tanner Scott, who look how that turned out. But paying players isn't the bad thing. It's not. It objectively isn't. No, paying a player the money they deserve is not a bad thing. It is when you manipulate the system like the Dodgers have been doing, which there's somehow no rules in place for deferred contracts, which is just absolutely wild. I mean, they have been like the Mets paid Soto all the money up front, and it's going to affect the payroll when eventually the salary cap and salary floor. Now, the whole debate has been the salary floor and salary cap, and I'm going to move on to that because that's the big talking point is little small market teams. Like look at the Dodgers. They went through the Reds. They went through who was the NLDS matchup? The Phillies. They went up, but they went and then the Brewers. So they went up against two really small market teams who don't spend money, and then the big market team that does spend money. But the issue, I think, has been teams not keeping their players. And the big example of that is the Blue Jays. Look at that. The Blue Jays signed their superstar first baseman at $500 million at the beginning of the season, and they're in the World Series competing against the Dodgers, who spent $1 billion this offseason. But I think that says something more to the league needs a salary floor. I think if you force these teams to pay up to a level of like $150 million, that's good for the sport. It forces teams to compete even when they're not competing. And it forces teams to sign players. Like the A's the A's purposely weren't signing anybody to move to Vegas. And they did that the entire time. And now they're all of a sudden signing players now knowing that they're going to Vegas. They manipulated the system where they didn't have to spend money for those years to get out of that stadium, get out of that state, to move to California, then Vegas. They were in California. What the hell am I talking about? But they abuse the systems. It throws out the whole, and now a team doesn't exist anymore. They're now just the Athletics. And now they're going to be the Las Vegas A's. But I think there's a lot of issues that could be solved with the salary floor. I think it's that simple. You add a salary floor, and the league is fixed. I think it will force teams to spend. They'll have to keep their players, at least keep their homegrown players, and not just throw them away. Like the Marlins and Rays won't be having $40-50 million payrolls. Let me just check lowest MLB payrolls. 2026 payroll. So the Dodgers are 1, the Mets are 2. Atlanta 3. Wow, that actually really shocks me. But down here, Nationals, that's dead cap. Miami, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Athletics, where they just started spending money like I just talked about. But there should be at least $100 million salary floor and then maybe like a 300 salary cap. it balances out. Like you look at 2025, $350 million. If you can keep, let's say the Dodgers, $350 million is the cap and $150 million is the salary floor. That is, I think, a perfect range, or let's say $100 million to lower it. $100 million and $300 million, a $200 million payroll that you can comfortably fit in without doing any punishment. And I think that it's good for the sport, and I think it'll save the sport. It'll save us from a lockout, even though I think if the Blue Jays win the World Series, we're not getting a lockout. If the Dodgers win, we are getting a lockout. And so, yeah, pretty much the entire future of baseball depends on this World Series and maybe next year's, but probably not. But it's incredible. But on the topic of baseball, because I'm going to keep talking about baseball, because there's another big deal storyline coming out of the sport. Tarek Skubal apparently is in difference with $250 million between the Tigers and the player, which is wild. You just have a guy who's probably going to win the Cy Young again, who won the Triple Crown last year in the American League for pitching, and you proceed to not pay him. And obviously his asking price could be $500 million. But the reason I want to talk about this is because there's a serious shot that the Mets have a chance to get Tarek Skubal. And I think the purport was any player is available other than Nolan McLean, which I 100% agree with. Maybe not Benj. I'm a big Benj guy. I think he's going to be a 5-tool superstar. Like, he will be the future center fielder for the next 10 years. He'll be what Michael Conforto, I think, who should have been. I know Conforto was a good player, but moving on. But I think other than Benj and McLean, even Tong, even though I'm such a big Tong fan, I think he's the next Tim Lincecum, like many others. I still think he is too raw. Like, he did not look great. He doesn't have a third pitch. He doesn't have that juice, and it's just hard to think about. But I think the package realistically would be all around Jet, Tong, and maybe two back, and maybe like I think it's Santucci. Is it Santucci? I don't know how to say his name. Mets prospects, 2020 top prospects. So crafting up a trade package. Let's say Jet, Tong. That's what it's going to take. If you don't want to get rid of Benjamin McLean, it's going to take Jet and Tong at the same time. So let's say Jet, Tong, Sprout. I would say Jet, Tong, Reimer, and then Wenninger or Santucci or Jonathan Santucci. That's either one. I think, though, it has to be a lower end prospect and like your three top guys. Obviously, there's some guys who I think are untouchable. Elaine Pena, Carson Bench, Nolan McLean are my only untouchables. I think that is I don't think there's any doubt. I think Elite Pena is going to be the next just superstar. I think that guy, he's so good. He had such a good year in rookie ball, and he's only 18. He's younger than me, which, disgusting to think about. At 949 OPS, 55 games. So not like crazy, but we gave him the biggest signing bonus for a reason in our franchise history. And I think he could be up by like 2027, 2028. I think it's saying 2030 is kind of crazy. Like, actually, that's 5 years. So he'd be 23. I mean, we could see him by 20 or 21. If he shoots up the minors, he had such a good year in rookie ball, he could just keep shooting up. But anyway, back to the topic of Skubal. The Mets had last year where they didn't have an ace, and they made the mistake of not trading for Crochet and paying Crochet. If they pay Crochet, they're in the playoffs, and they're probably playing at least in the NLDS this year and playing against they would have played against the Dodgers in the NLC and the NL wild card. So yeah, I could see them beating the Dodgers. They had Garrett Crochet. They're a 90-win team if they have Crochet. They won 80 games without an ace. Even though Peterson looked like an ace for a little bit, then fell off a cliff. I'm going on a rant. But the team was missing an ace the entire year. And I think they got that ace by the end of the year in McLean, who just put on a show. I mean, he had some of the grossest pitches I've ever seen with my own two eyes. 206 ERA, 56 strikeouts, and just how many innings? 48. Nasty. And I cannot wait to watch him again. But anyway, back to the starting pitching. The Mets need an ace. And they got that ace, but they need another one. They need a solidified guy who has proven in the league, has won that Cy Young, and they should have done it with Crochet. They didn't. But now they have a chance to do it with Skubal. Don't make that same mistake twice, or else unless he's going for like 5 top 100 prospects from one team, I wouldn't want to trade for him, even though it's Skubal. He's so good. It's so frustrating to watch him be in a Tigers uniform and then him try to get them try to underpay him, which is just wild. Like if I'm a Tigers GM, I'm handing him a blank check and just saying, dude, if you want to write like $400 million on it, do it. I don't care. You're like the face of our franchise. You are the face of the rotation. You have brought us back to relevancy, kinda, and you helped us so much in the playoffs this year. Get that close fight against the Mariners. Um, but I don't know what you do. I really, really hope this team does make a big trade. They need to do a lot of things this offseason. Because that pitching rotation was the reason they sunk. And even though the hitting was also a problem, but the pitching rotation was a big issue, was the bigger issue. I cannot see them not doing anything drastic like a big trade. And if it's a Turk screwball trade, I'm not complaining. But I think I should talk about the game last night. Should I? Should I keep talking about Turk screwball? I'm going to talk about the game last night. Last night we saw the probably one of the best game sevens of all time. I think it's up there. It's definitely not the best. Obviously, 2016 Cubs Cleveland. Sorry, Cubs Cleveland is the best game seven. Probably the best game any MLB game's ever played. It's that simple. But that was a pretty high one. I really thought Seattle was going to win it. I really did. I was really rooting for them. I really wanted them to make the World Series. First pennant, that suffering fan base, and they just added another moment to even add to their suffering. Springer, he should have. I think the Mets were in the rumor back in 2020 for him, and I know he's had some really rough injury, has some really rough injury history. It is just so interesting to see. But the disappointment continues for him. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to watch the World Series, which I'm going to be watching, even though I have not watched a lot of baseball this playoffs because I feel like the Mets just took me out of everything. And then I'd randomly watch the Mets. I randomly watch a random playoff game here and there. Like I watched Seattle Tigers because I had nothing going on. But I cannot wait to watch this World Series. It's either baseball's ruined or baseball's saved. And yeah, I don't really know. I'm gonna talk about something real quick here because I don't know how to smooth. We're learning the smooth transition part of this show. It's gonna take a while, but we'll learn. Moving on to, I'm not gonna do a break because this is a very, very, very quick topic. It's football and the just joke of a state football is in this city. The Giants were up 28 to, I believe it was 11 or 8. Either way, it's bad. With 6 minutes left to go, and they pull off probably, I think, the worst historic loss of all time. Like, no, 1,000 teams have had a lead over the final 6 minutes, and they were like 1,400 and now they're 1,401. It is like, and that's the funny part is that's not even the worst thing that's happened this week. The Jets just suck. Like, it's so hard to watch. It's so like I'm not watching another game. I'm a diehard Jets fan. I love this team. And of course, the moment they look really bad and they're gonna win one game this season. They might not even win any. It's one of the worst draft classes in recent memory. And they are going to mess up the draft pick they take anyway. And I just cannot wait. Cannot wait to see what like the Jets are probably going to lose again next week. They play the Bengals, I think, next week, and of course, I think it's Browning still. He'll destroy. We'll probably get like 9 points, 3 field goals. The defense can't turn over a football. The offense turns over the football more than any other team, apparently. But I don't know. I don't know. What does this? What do you do? What do you do? I'm at a loss for words with how bad this team is because this might be the worst team I've ever seen of any of my teams, and I've watched some bad Islander teams. Like I watched a little bit of the early 2010s Islanders, and it was so bad. It was so bad. Like it was so when they were getting like the 4th and 5th overall pick. Like I gotta find the years I'm talking about because it was bad, dude. Like it was bad. This doesn't go all the way back to those years. I started watching hockey. I would say I became more of like a fan, but I did occasionally watch here and there when I was like 5. Going back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like the 2012-13 New York Islanders. Oh, that was the year they made the playoffs. No, 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 the year after that. Yeah. They weren't like the bad Islanders yet. Like they were 26th in the league at this time. 2012, I think it was 2012, 11, 12 was probably the first season I ever watched. They were 27th in a 30-team league. Like I watched some bad teams. The Jets don't like. I've watched a Jets teams that have been worse, that have been very bad. And it's just, what do you do? I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. This team sucks, and it's so frustrating. And football just sucks. It's such a bad sport. Just at a loss for words. I really don't know what to talk about because nothing happened. Nothing interesting happens in this sports. Nothing interesting happens in this place, like to any of the teams I care about. Well, we'll get to hockey in a little bit, which I might have some interesting things to talk about. Which, you know what? I think it's time we finally move off football and move on to hockey. So
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, I'm Morgan Beastie from the Ionian, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Are you looking for the latest scoop on campus news, sports, and more? Check out the Ionian University's very own award-winning student newspaper. We keep you up to date with everything happening on and off campus. Want to know about the big game, the latest campus event? It's all in the Ionian. Join the conversation. Read, write, and get involved. Visit www.theionian.org or pick up a copy around campus. Stay informed, stay connected. Now, back to WIUR, Iona University Radio.
we now move on to the actual interesting topic in this town, and that's hockey. Because of course it is, because hockey's actually, there's stuff to talk about in this sport because the Giants also just suck. The Jets suck. The Mets and Yankees had abysmal seasons. And basketball, I will get to basketball because there's some positives to talk about in basketball with one team, not the other. But first, I think we talk about with my team, the Islanders. They won 2 games since I've been on, and they didn't look as horrible as they have. Now, the Oilers just looked garbage in the first game. Evan Bouchard looked garbage in the first game. Wow, he handed them that win. And it's really funny to watch the highlights back and forth because wow, dude, what the hell was he thinking? But I think the positive to talk about is as the 2 last games, Schaefer, wow, I am out of it right now. Schaefer didn't look like Schaefer this year. He didn't look like Schaefer these 2 games. Sorry, I said this year. He didn't look like Schaefer the past 2 games. And it is, am I worried? No, nobody has ever worried. I don't know why somebody would be worried about an 18-year-old who struggled a little bit. But I am not worried. Nobody should be worried. He's going to be perfectly fine. But I think the one I want to talk about the most, the guy who I want to talk about the most is plain and simple Anders Lee. The guy is so weird because he will go from looking like the worst player, worst skater. He genuinely looks like he's dying on the ice sometimes. He skates so slow, and you genuinely wonder how this guy's still in the National Hockey League. And then he pulls out what he did against Ottawa. 3 points, 1 goal, 2. I think it was 1 goal, 2 assists. Genuinely a highlight reel goal. Steals it, absolutely undresses. I believe it was. Oh my gosh. Jordan Spence. That's who it was. It just absolutely destroys Jordan Spence, steals it. Spinorama throws it into the back of the net behind Omar. He does stuff like that after looking like garbage for 4 games. It's really funny. But I think to take away that some of these veterans still have, he is going to fetch you so much at the trade deadline if you decide to sell. This team is a 75, 80 point team, at best an 85 point team. And to imagine what they could get for Lee, Pajot, hell, if you want to get crazy, trade Drouin and Trade Drouin and Palmieri if there's teams fetching for it. Like you could get so much for these players because teams are going to be willing to overpay. Because at this time, I don't know who sells. Like I genuinely don't know of what teams who's going to sell at the deadline this year. Like Calgary is going to, San Jose is going to, LA, I think still is going to be a 90, an 89, 85 to 90 point team. I don't think they're this bad. They're bad, not bad. Tampa is going to bounce back. They're going to get back up there. They might miss the playoffs, but they're not going to be this bad. They're not going to be 20. They're not going to be in the bottom 5 to 10 range. Ottawa, I still believe in. Buffalo, I still believe in. I don't think they're this bad either. I genuinely think that some of these teams are not as bad as they think they are. And then you have the Islanders who are really bad defensively. So I think there's a lot of teams like Calgary's going to be bad. San Jose is going to be bad. That's obvious. Columbus, I don't know why I don't know how, I could see the Islanders being the third worst team. That is, I think, the most realistic outcome. They are picking third and they're probably picking Stenberg if that's third. And if no teams jump up this year, which I don't see, unless the Islanders jump up, which McKenna, but Ivar Stenberg at 3, or hell, even Verhoff at 3, or anybody at 3. If you can get some of these guys, okay, I'm going off right now. But anyway, I see the Islanders finishing third last, if any team, because I don't think Tampa's this bad. I don't think Buffalo. I don't think Ottawa. I don't think LA is this bad. Now, I do think some teams come back down to earth. I think Chicago comes back down to earth. I don't think they're this good. I don't think Seattle is that good. I don't think Pittsburgh is this good. They're 4-2. Detroit, they're probably good. I'm a very big believer in Detroit. I do think they're going to be good. I think Montreal falls down, but I don't think they're going to be that bad. I think they'll be a wild card team, not 6th in the league. Good. Who else could I see? Philly, I think falls down, even though I do still think they finish ahead of the Islanders. Minnesota, I think gets bumped up. Nashville, I think gets bumped down, but again, not worse than the Islanders. I still think most of these teams have better D scores than most of my teams, most of the Islanders. Bruins, I think, stay in this range. Panthers, I see bouncing up. Anaheim, I see bouncing up. Edmonton, I see bouncing up. Columbus, up. Buffalo, up. Ottawa, up. Tampa, up. Kings, up. It's just every team I see going up and the Islanders going down. I don't think that there's any, I don't think any Islander fan would argue that because this team just simply isn't good. They give up way too many scoring chances. They don't have the offensive talent to play the game they want to, which is a high-flying skate around the ice, hopefully score 6 goals a game, give up 5. But their $8 million goaltender's broken, and I don't know how you fix him unless you just – I don't think he's hurt. I genuinely just think he might suck. And that's devastating because I love Sorokin. I was his biggest defender for so long. And then last year I kind of teetered because he kept letting in weak things. And then this year he has just looked lost. And it makes me so sad to watch. But if there is any team that I could see selling at the deadline, it's going to be the Islanders. They're going to be the big sellers this year because realistically speaking, I think in the offseason, Horvat is going to get moved. I think there's a chance if a package is right enough, Barzal will be moved. I think Barzal is going to prove why he shouldn't be moved, but I think Barzal will be moved. Pollock and Pellick need to be moved. They are contract anchors. They're bad. Even though they have actually been bad these past 2 games, they've looked pretty solid. I think you can get 4 first-round picks for this draft. For a stacked draft class. Now, obviously, Colorado, the moment you get their pick, they're never going to lose a game again, which is annoying, but we still got another first. We still got a late first, if that's that. Hopefully not 32nd. Hopefully it's 29, 28. It's only 3 picks, but it's still. But I just don't know how to feel about. I think the Islanders are in a good spot to the point where every team is going to be so desperate to get some of their players. Peugeot and Lee particularly. You retain salary on Lee. That's $3.5 million for a 50-point player. Any team would want that. A captain for 7 years, a 50-point scorer who has a known good clubhouse leader. That is a definition of a playoff team would want that. They will give up a first-round pick, a top prospect, anything for that type of player. Peugeot, third-line center, good in the play, has always been good in the playoffs. Every time he's been in the playoffs, his point per game numbers in the playoffs might actually be really crazy. I got to look this up because his playoff stats have been so good. Does Hockey DB not do playoffs? Oh, there it is. 43 for a third line center, 43 points in 86 playoff games. And oh wait, that's coming. That's not even the NHL. What's his NHL point per game? Okay, Hockey DB kind of sucks with this. Let me go to Hockey Reference real quick. But point to note, he has always been a clutch player. He had that 4-goal game against the Rangers. I'm really trying to John Gabriel Pajot. All right, let me look at this. This is taking a little bit longer than I would have hoped. Playoffs, points. It was showing his just regular stats, but 10 points, 11, 13. Like his 2020, 2021, he had 13 points, 3 goals, 10 assists. 2019, 2020, he had 8 goals, 3 assists, 11 points. Ottawa, it was age 24 season, 10 points, 8 goals, 2 assists. So he's a clutch goal scorer or just a point getter. He's a very good playoff player with very good defensive metrics. And like he's a big playoff player, and he is going to fetch you probably a first and a second round pick at the deadline. And I cannot wait to see it happen. I don't see how he doesn't fetch you something. Teams are going to want him. And if you want to retain salary on him, and hell, a team's going to want Pelech. A team's going to probably want Pollock somehow because they're probably going to think they could fix him, even though they can't because he's unfixable. But this team could sell off, go into a major rebuild very quickly, like very, very, very quickly. And it would be a joy. After watching so many mediocre teams, it would just be a joy. And I cannot wait to see what happens at the deadline. But there's one team that probably cannot wait to the deadline because their team sucks, and it makes me so happy. That's the New York Rangers because, wow, they haven't won a game at home yet. I believe they are. What is their record? Are they 3-4 or 3-5? They're 3-4-1. They have 7 points. They're 17th in the league. They are the first team out of a wild card spot right now because they have 2 games in hand on the Flyers. They have 2 games. They have 2 games more than the Flyers with the same amount of points. But I think the Rangers, I've said this before, I don't think the Rangers are good. And they keep proving me why, because they cannot score at home. And it's very, very funny. They have scored 1 goal total on the road at home, but they've scored like 9 on the road. They scored 4 in Montreal, 1 in Toronto, 4 in Buffalo, 6 in Pittsburgh. They've scored 1, 0, 0, 0 at home. And that's very funny to look. Like, that's such a crazy stat. And they have the Sharks coming in, so they should score more than 1 goal at home. It's the Sharks. And I think the Islanders could beat them, which kind of would suck because that means 3 in a row. They're back under it. But there is something about the Rangers not being able to score at home is so weird because usually teams are elevated when they're home, and the Rangers are the exact opposite. They're elevated on the road, and it's, God, I'm such a mess right now. I'm just like, ugh. But I think there's a lot to talk about the Rangers because what do you do? Chris Drury reportedly is worried about losing his job. And right now there's, I believe it was a Frank Saravelli moment where he said, yeah, the Rangers are not afraid to trade Artemi Panarin if they end up struggling down the line. Yeah, right here. Do I think Chris Drury will be afraid to trade Artemi Panarin at the deadline? They're going nowhere. No, I do not. That is such. Ooh. Wrap it up. Well, to the abrupt end, I think I'm gonna have to cancel the show for a little ending a little early. So sorry about that. I know this kind of was a mess. I'm Jason Adams, and that will do it for GTSS. I don't know how to end this without, because it kind of came abrupt. Thank you for listening if you did. I will see you all next week for hopefully a smoother and longer show where I have more stuff written down. Goodbye.